Hello everybody and welcome back to AI Blades, where we bring you cutting edge AI security every single week. My name's David Willis-Owen and as always I'll be the host for this show. I'd like to quickly share a very exciting milestone. So we've already reached the top 200 technology podcasts in the UK, which is an amazing statistic, and I want to say thank you so much for all of those listeners out there who are putting the time in. It really means a lot. Today we have a fantastic topic, which is very topical. How secure will Apple Intelligence be? Now this is somewhat speculative, but I've gone through all of the documentation which Apple have released, and we're going to take a look at what are we actually getting? What will be provided from a technical standpoint in the Apple Intelligence suite? Next, we'll take a deep dive into each of these components and look at the 3 different ways which Apple plans on processing large language model prompts: on-device processing, private cloud compute, and ChatGPT integration. After that, we will look at Siri intents and consider the potential prompt injection risks associated with this technology. Finally, we'll look at final thoughts and consider the future of artificial intelligence security after Apple Intelligence drops to the world. So, to begin with, let's look at an overview of what we're getting. Apple has divided its AI into a bunch of discrete packages. So, package number 1 is the writing tools. In the writing tools, Apple's AI will allow it to manipulate any text, so it will be able to change the tone of a passage. It will be able to transform text into lists and also summarize articles. Being able to harness the power of AI writing with just one tap on your phone is very exciting, and I personally really look forward to this feature. The next feature we're getting is the image playground. So Apple has decided to tackle image generation in a really unique way. This tool enables you to create AI images in one of 3 styles. So we have animation, illustration, or sketch. Apple have done this deliberately because the artwork will undoubtedly be recognizable as AI generated, and by doing so they can expect to skirt a lot of the legal disputes going on with AI generated content. Furthermore, Apple Intelligence also allows users to generate their own emojis based on a prompt, which will be very good fun to see. Finally, Siri with app intents. Now we're going to take a deep dive into this feature in particular later. Basically, Siri is getting a good upgrade. It will have visibility into on-screen content. So what you're doing on the screen, Siri will be able to ingest and then take actions based on that. So very interesting attack surface. However, moving on, let's consider the package which Apple claims to be providing. I believe this is a job well done. Overall, Apple Intelligence seems to have been meticulously thought out, and it looks to provide massive value for its users. Apple has bided their time and released a showstopper product, as they have done so many times before with their technology packages. Now, let's discuss the security. Apple has decided to take a 3-pronged approach to run their AI. They have on-device processing, they have private cloud compute, and they have ChatGPT integration. Let's look at the security of each one in more detail. On-device processing. So for simple requests, Apple will use an on-device large language model to answer responses. And this will provide fast and cheap AI for everyday use cases offline. So for Apple, keeping sensitive data on device is a simple answer to securing the data. Apple have invested heavily in the security of their hardware, so doing this is a very simple solution to a lot of large language model requests. What about those that require more oomph? Well, we can enter private cloud compute. This is a proprietary technology which Apple has been developing, and for larger queries, Apple devices will communicate with this private cloud compute to generate responses. Large language model technology poses a challenge to the data confidentiality aspect because private user data in the queries needs to be processed unencrypted by a server to be able to actually ingest this data and then come up with a meaningful LLM response. So, PCC addresses 5 different requirements. This paper, which Apple released, is an incredible read, and I highly recommend everybody to check out the PCC paper. It is really cutting-edge computer science at work. So, they have tried to address 5 requirements. Requirement 1, stateless computation on personal user data. So basically, user data is only used to fulfill the LLM request, and then it's deleted immediately after, and nobody else has access to this, including logs. Number 2 is enforceable guarantees. So Apple will use cryptography to ensure only authorized code can run on a private cloud compute node. Number 3 is no privileged runtime access. This is very interesting because I have experience as working as a site reliability engineer where I frequently have to elevate my privileges to administrator to access things, which obviously can be exploited by attackers. Now, Apple have removed remote shells and removed debugging mechanisms which could be used for this extra layer of privilege by attackers, which is fascinating. I do not know how they are doing this, but according to them, they are not even going to keep user data in logs as well. They will have targeted metrics which are sent to the right people, and this will not contain any sensitive data. So, very interesting point there. Number 4, non-targetability. This has 2 components. Apple will create these devices with a hardened supply chain, which will minimize the risks of supply chain attacks, which is a huge win. They will also use something called target diffusion to ensure large language model requests cannot be routed to specific PCC servers. Finally, verifiable transparency. This is arguably the biggest surprise. The PCC software will be made public for security researchers like myself to actually inspect, which is interesting because Apple's ethos a lot of the time, their security products and devices are closed box effectively. Giving researchers the opportunity to look into the software and analyze it for risks is a big win in my opinion, because it will allow more pairs of eyes to scan over the code and search for vulnerabilities. As Apple says, this is an extraordinary set of requirements and one that we believe represents a generational leap over any traditional cloud service security model. Private cloud compute is arguably even more impressive than the Apple Intelligence. On paper, the technology seems to be unhackable and promises to set a new bar for cloud security. Well, will this be the case in practice? Only time will tell. Moving on to the next slide, ChatGPT integration, the weakest link. So finally, if a request requires more real-world context for the answer, Apple will partner with ChatGPT and actually send the request over to OpenAI using their models to provide the answer. And this has sparked controversy in the AI community, with Elon Musk promising to ban Apple devices at his company if they partner with OpenAI in this way. So Apple claims that OpenAI won't store requests of this nature, but at the end of the day, user data will be processed by OpenAI as a third-party organization. Users will be notified of what data is being sent out in these requests, but for regular users who leverage this ChatGPT integration, the data they submit in requests should be considered potentially compromised, as it hasn't gone to that private cloud compute, it's gone to the regular OpenAI servers. So, finally, looking at Siri intents, this could be an attack surface for indirect prompt injection. So, as we mentioned previously, Siri will have on-screen awareness, and this means it can act based on content showing on the device. It also has access to perform hundreds of new actions, as said by Apple, and an example is sending an iMessage to someone. To me, alarm bells immediately ring here. when a large language model takes in arbitrary input and then takes action, it is inherently insecure to indirect prompt injection, which is a topic I've covered several times on this channel before. I look forward to testing this thoroughly, and one potential attack scenario I came up with is crafting a prompt that induces Siri to iMessage out personal information to an attacker, and then hosting this prompt on a website. And if somebody browses to the website and then asks Siri to read it in, this action may occur. So Apple will undoubtedly have guardrails in place, but I cannot wait to try circumventing these. Final thoughts. Overall, Apple has clearly made security a priority when planning its AI strategy. This is a refreshing change from the slew of organizations racing to push AI as fast as possible with little heed to the potential risks. While this has contributed to Apple being somewhat late to the market with AI, I believe this will save the company time and money in the long run. The Apple Intelligence beta will drop in autumn on Apple's latest devices, so iPhone 15 Pro and above, and certain macOS models, and I look forward to answering 3 questions when this drops. Question 1. Is private cloud compute as secure as Apple claims it is? Number 2, is Siri Intense vulnerable to indirect prompt injection? And number 3, does the OpenAI integration mean private data will be sent to an untrusted third party? If Apple gets this launch right, it will set a precedent for AI safety, which will convince other companies to take it more seriously. And from the bottom of my heart, I hope they do. And that's a wrap, guys. Thank you so much for staying to the end. If you enjoyed this, please like, subscribe, and share the content that we are producing. And I love doing this, guys. This is my passion, and it's amazing to be able to present to everyone out there who's interested. So thank you so much for staying to the end, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.